Let me see if in YouTube everything comes in. Can take a while. I think we are live.
Still waiting, zegt hij hier.
I see that we're live. So let's see if that's really true. YouTube always takes a little bit of time to wake up somehow. So, and are we live on YouTube?
Yeah.
Ah, great. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. And already something freaks me out because this camera is without battery, Annemiek. So please hurry up. So we always check everything, of course, before we start, but we forgot to check this camera for the battery. So today we're going to do something that I don't do a lot. Normally what you see me do, of course, is a lot of model photography. And of course, when we travel, we love to do some street photography. But in our studio, we of course also, let me help Anouk out. Anouk, do you find it?
I don't know where the plug is. Ik zie hem niet.
One moment, guys. So we're going to plug it in.
There you go.
So now we have power. Yes, now the blinking is stops. So when something blinks, that always terrifies me. Okay, so normally, of course, we do a lot of model photography, but also street and travel photography when we travel. But in our studio, we also do families and product photography. So one of the things that you don't see me doing a lot during Digital Classroom is actually product photography. And that's why a few years ago, we actually decided let's do one episode every so often with product photography. Now, in all honesty, product photography is not really my thing unless it's something that I find interesting because, well, I can show you, of course, everything that we do with product photography on, for example, a white table, like a product table. But in all honesty, that's just putting up a big umbrella or the lantern from Gigoto. You shoot it, you select it in Lightroom. You know what? We're just going to show you that in a moment. So that's set one. Now, normally what I try to do is, of course, we're going to do set one for our clients, meaning against the white backdrop or against black. But it isn't something that I love to do. What I love to do is bring narrative in my images. Now, we do that with model photography, for example, with styling or adding props. But you can also do that with your product photography. Now, you have to know what your client wants, but most of all, also, what is the purpose of the shot? If the purpose of the shot is show the product in all its glory, and you have to make sure that you see all the inputs and outputs, or the stitching, or you have to make sure that you see, I don't know exactly how to pronounce the broilie on something that is clothing material. And that's the moment when you start to shoot, of course, with flat lighting and make sure that all those details show up. Black backdrop, white backdrop, amazing for this. In essence, when I buy a piece of gear, I always look at the images with the white backdrop for the very simple reason you can turn it around, you can see all the inputs, you can guess the quality of the product, and at that point, of course, you can buy the product. But that's not always why I want to buy a product. That's when I'm going to buy a product that I already know that I want to buy. What do I do when I want to buy a product that I don't know yet that I want to buy? That's the part where the narrative comes in. Now think about the 80s or 90s, I don't remember exactly when, the Marlboro Man. How many guys did you think started smoking because of the Marlboro Man? But did you ever see the Marlboro Man with a Marlboro? Yeah, probably yes, but you never know, right? Because although the brand is mentioned in there, you don't see him holding a pack of cigarettes. No. You see the Marlboro Man. That's a cowboy, a very, very handsome man, right? A very manly man. And we all want to be the manly man. So we start smoking. Now, of course, we know that you don't smoke because that's very bad for your health. But at that point, that's what you identify with. And that's what we're going to talk about today and what we're going to do in our live shoot. As you all know, I love using props. Now, the best prop you can use in your photography is, of course, the props that you already own. So during our photo shoots, you see a lot of guitars coming by, or cameras, or stuff that we borrow. Today, because it's product photography, I thought, you know what, let's take one of my guitars. And today we have a really special guitar. I'm going to show you the guitar very quickly, so you guys have an idea what we're going to shoot. It's this one. Let me show you a little bit better. So let's go for the height cam. I'm already practicing my cameras, of course. It's the same camera. There we go. So this is the camera that you're gonna see the close-ups for, and there's the height camera. Okay, cool. So we have headless guitar. It's very shiny. And we want to make sure that we capture the essence of the guitar. So we're going to do a few things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a simple product shot. And if everything works out fine, I'm going to show you on the iPad how you can edit that very quickly into a pure white backdrop without too much problems. But after that, we're going to change the set. We want to create a set that's not only inviting to people, but also tells a story. And what is the story about rock music? Of course, it's lighting, it's amps, it's everything put together. So today in Digital Classroom, it's all about everything that makes a picture interesting, or as we like to call it over here, the glamorous product photography. So are you ready, guys? I am. So let's start our Digital Classroom. Okay, so a few things first. What are we going to use today? On my iPad, I'm actually using an app called Cascable. We're going to switch to that very quickly. Now, Cascable is an app that runs at this moment on your desktop and on your iPad, and it's a very handy app because what you can do with it is, in all essence, just shoot tethered wireless or with wire on your iPad. And the main reason I'm using the iPad is actually very simple because outside I don't want to bring a laptop. You have a lot of dust outside in Poland at the moment, so you don't want everything just clogging up your laptop and your keyboard and all the openings. And the iPad is just very, very nice and closed off. It runs all day and the output is really, really bright. And also, the laptop is, of course, more prone to problems. So if you have a software issue on a Windows or on a Mac, you have to reboot the whole system. Takes time. With the iPad, I just swipe up, close the app, and it's done. The only problem we sometimes run into with the iPad is, of course, that sometimes it blocks the USB port. So that means that if I turn off my camera by accident and turn it on again, on the desktop it's recognized immediately, and on the iPad I have to go into Cascable and say, okay, connect camera again, and then it connects. That's not the fault of Cascable. It's actually how the iPad works. Today we are going to do something that I didn't do before in a live shoot. So I'm going to show you very quickly what I mean with that. I'm going to go for picture-in-picture large. Now, when you look at Cascable, you can see in the left corner, you can see the A7R5. That's my camera. And under there, you can see on this iPad. Now, normally when you shoot into an app on the iPad, it always stores the images in the sandbox. And this is one of the things that I don't like about the iPad, because I want everything in a folder. So I can easily get into that folder and get the images out. I hate using the film roll. I hate using sandboxes. I just want something where you can connect it. Cascable has this figured out. You can select a different location. So for example, if I'm shooting for a client, I can say, okay, let's store it inside the sandbox, because you always have to, but also store it on an external drive, or maybe on OneDrive or Dropbox. And what we're doing today is I'm actually connecting photos from my iPad to Cascable. And the reason for this is very simple. When you look at the new Lightroom on the iPad has an option on device. So normally you could only edit your images when you are in Lightroom. And that's okay, because then you went to the tether folder, imported into Lightroom, uploaded to the, you see it's all these steps. Now with the new Lightroom, I can literally just go into that Photos album Lightroom and import straight from there into Lightroom, or just edit on the device. That gives me a lot more flexibility to do quick retouching on the location. Okay, let's switch over to my picture-in-picture small. So we're going to go for the set. I do have one more thing that I want to tell you guys, and this is also connected to tethering, of course. As you all know, we are the distributor, and also I love to use it, IQ Wire. And when you start tethering, there's one thing that's very important. Make sure that you protect your camera. So in other words, use something of an, a defense system on your camera, because if you stand on your cable and you yank the cable out of the port, that's a very, very expensive repair. Now, one of the things that I love about IQ Wire is that they have a whole system. So they have tether cables from 5, 10, and 15 meters without any in-between connection. So it's one piece. They do have inline boosters, of course, but you don't have to connect the the cables. And one of the things that I really like about it is the IntelliConnect. So it connects really fast, and thanks to the boosters, it's also a very fast cable. Now, some people were a little bit disappointed that we went from red to black. We hear you guys, so here we go. These are available starting on Friday in our web shop, and this is the new Formula 10G cables. Faster and, of course, better. Yes, and approximately the same price. How about that? Isn't that awesome? For now, because we don't know what the tariffs are going to do, but for now, we are selling these for the same price as the old cables. So 10G cables, and as you can see, we are red again. So that's nice because that fits my cap a little bit better. Of course, the 10G cables are available in 5, 10, and 15 meters. Again, available starting on Friday in our web shop. Okay, I think we're going to go for picture-in-picture small transition, and I think we're going to go for the first set in our studio. Annemiek, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay, so Annemiek is going to take over from me. I'm going to switch over to camera in the studio.
You should ask how audio is.
Audio is okay, as I can see here. Paul is online. Hey, Paul, how are you? How is the audio on your side? Please let me know, and we will switch over so you can say it and we will read it. It's always a problem because we are doing the broadcast at Wednesday. We don't have a lot of viewers live. So if you see something that doesn't work, let us know. Because later in the rerun, a lot of people see it and then we can't change it anymore. Okay, so, oh, there we have our camera. So this is a lighting setup, very simple. We have the guitar, we have our Giotto lantern, and I just aim it straight at the guitar. Now, at this moment, we also have a lot of light from our studio lighting. Normally, when we do a photo shoot, that's of course off, and I'm just using the modeling lights. But because we're using video now, this is terrible because I can't see anything what I'm doing, but that's because of the video. So sometimes when I have to move things around a little bit, don't worry, when the lights are off, it's much easier. Okay, the first things first. When we shoot something in our studio and it's a product or a model, that doesn't really matter, we have to make sure that we use a light meter. Now, why should you use a light meter? You shouldn't use a light meter because it kills your creativity, right? Or it slows you down, or you just know it, you can guess it, right? No. You have to realize that when we shoot something, the luminance of that object, or in other words, the exposure, is incredibly important for your color accuracy. Let me explain very quickly. Every color has three coordinates, an X, a Y, and a big Y, hue, saturation, and luminance. If one of those three isn't correct, your image will not look correct. When we do product photography, we want to make sure that all the images look 100% correct. It does depend, again, on why do we shoot the product. If I'm shooting against a white backdrop, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to tint this image. This is an image that's going to be 100% as it should. So we're using two tools for this. The light meter to make sure that my luminance channel is correct, and we're going to use the color checker to make sure that our hue and saturation is correct. If we do model photography, I still highly recommend using a light meter and a color checker, but that's just to speed up your workflow. Is it really important? Again, it depends on what you do with your model photography. If you shoot a family, yes, it's important. If you shoot fashion, yes, it's important. When you shoot a portrait, you guessed it, yes, it's important. When it's not important, maybe with cosplay or when you do something that's really out there, when you are super creative, but why not use the light meter anyway? Because it's just faster. So in this case, how do we control the light meter and the strobes? You guys ask me that a lot. The Giotto system has its own commander. That's now already on the camera and that controls 4 groups. I highly recommend, especially when we're going to use more strobes in a moment, to follow the clock. So group A, B, C. That way, when you follow the clock, you always know where is your level or where is the strobe with that number. In my light meter, there is a simple application, and that's actually triggering Allingram or Photics. Now, Allingram, we don't have any Allingram in the studio at the moment anymore, but we do have a dumb trigger from Photics on the top of our strobes, and we have that on our main lights. And that means that with the light meter, I can now trigger my strobe without using the commander. Now, the setting that I'm using at the moment is 4.1. So that means that I have f4 ISO 200 with 1/10 of an f-stop over. Am I really nervous about 1/10? No. As soon as I start hitting the 2/10 or 3/10, of course with 3/10 you go one click up on your camera. That's the part where I start to worry. But with 1/10, no. Okay, so that means when I'm shooting on ISO 200 f4, I should get a pretty standard image, right? So let's turn on my commander. If all goes well. There we go. And of course, F4. Now this image is really simple. We're going to shoot it from the top down. And of course, because we're going to use Photoshop or Lightroom in a moment, you don't have to crop it correctly. And there you go. And you see the first problem. And that is that huge reflection on your guitar. Oh my, that's terrible, right? Now you have to realize that we have something called angle of incidence as angle of reflection. So when I'm using a strip light or a softbox or a large softbox or an umbrella, it doesn't matter. From one angle, I'm shooting under the same angle, I'm getting that reflection. What I can do to counter that effect is this. So now I have a perfect cutout of my guitar. It's perfectly lit, it's very flat. I do have some shadows in there, but I don't have that nasty reflection anymore. So how do we solve the reflections or the shadows? Let's say that you don't want those shadows. Very simple. You place your strobe to the back. You're going to make sure that now they see the shadow areas. And there you go. So now that's lit up a little bit. If you want to light it up more, you can always use a reflector and bounce in some light. Let me see if we have a standard reflector here. Can you get me one of those big ones? Or that one. This one I really like. This is the Rogue. And we sell those also. And normally I'm not a big fan of a reflector, but because this one is rectangular, you can literally just aim it really easy at your product or your model, hold it with one hand, and still am able to shoot. And I'm just adding a little bit of light in that area. I don't want a lot of light there, just a little bit. And of course you can place it a little bit closer. Let's zoom out. Don't even need an assistant for this, isn't that awesome? Maybe we'll go a little bit higher. And there we go. Pretty nice. So, this is white. Wow. Great, right? Love the guitar. But in all honesty, I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me. When I want to buy something, I want to see something cool. I want to see something that literally tells me I want this. And when I see this, I go like, yeah, okay, it's nice, it's cool. It should be because I designed it, but it doesn't really work for me. So let's just do what we normally do for our customers. We do some close-ups, for example, from the bridge. Nice. Maybe some from here that you can see the layout of the buttons and the input. Of course, I love the whole guitar neck, so let's turn that around a little bit and let's show the tree of life. There we go, that's nice. Let's do a little bit more here for the body shape, and we don't need the whole guitar, of course. Nice, of course we need the input. I don't know why, but people like that. We want to ensure the pickups. And maybe a little bit cut off of the bridge. There we go. I think we got enough of this. So I'm bored. So let's go into Lightroom and see what we can do with this stuff. And in the meantime, let's spice up the set a little bit, Enoweek and Nina. Let's see what you guys can do. So let's switch over to here. So I'm going to go for picture-in-picture large. And it's okay, but somehow, nah. Let's say that I like this one, which I actually do. Okay, so I already told you guys that we are storing it now in Lightroom, in the folder Lightroom on my photos. So let's open up Lightroom. And what you can immediately see is that those images are now indeed in Lightroom. There we go. And this was the one that I liked. So how do I want to edit something like this? Well, it is a dark guitar, so I want to keep it dark. But let's say that it's not for, that my client wants it a little bit more white. The cool thing about Lightroom nowadays is that you can very simply just do that selection. So you're going to do plus, select subject, and now what you will see is it selected the guitar, and that's not really what I want, of course. So press here. Ah, that's a lot better. So now it actually selected everything around the guitar. You should do a little bit of refinement on your sides here because that's not 100% perfect, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it now. I just want to show you the tricks. Go into light, and what I normally do is in this case, I will not touch the highlights and shadows yet. I'm just going to go for my whites, and I'm just going to pull those all the way up. Now, if it's still not 100% white as here, I'm just going to raise the exposure. There we go. And this is why you should do your selection a little bit nicer than I did. As you can see here, I am cutting into the guitar a little bit, but that's because I didn't do my selection nice. You can also choose to bump your highlights and of course bump the contrast, and that way you're cutting in less in the guitar. This is something that you have to work out for yourself. What do you like? How do you like to set it up? Effects, you can use dehaze to make it more white and to create the shadows, or take them out. As you can see here, I can enhance the shadows or actually take them out with dehaze. And again, if you do the selection properly, this is awesome. Now, let's say that you still want to add something to the guitar. You want to add some more exposure. Let's do a plus. Let's do a new one. Select subject. And now the guitar is selected. Let's go for light. And let's just bump the shadows a little bit. There we go. Add some exposure to the guitar. And this is way too much. So bump the contrast. And there we go. Now we've got a nice dark walnut back. And there we go. So it's simple to create a white backdrop. Is it something that excites me as a photographer? Well, let me put it this way. It does the job, right? We now exactly see the guitar. It is a white backdrop. If you do the selection nicer, this is something that you can put on your web shop, and it's great. But it doesn't really push me towards buying that guitar. So let's try something else. So now that we are, oh, camera's already in use, of course. Annelie, can you please turn my camera off and on again? That's the thing about the iPad that I told you guys about. When I switch over to Lightroom, I have to turn off and on the camera again. And as you can see now, it will probably select it. Okay, let's go back to the set. There we go. Okay. So we created something new. And this is a lot more interesting, I think. Because now, yes, oh, this is so nice. Wow, guys, how did you do this? Yeah, we prepared. Nice. Now we have a different backdrop, or as we call it here, a different clothing, or whatever you want to call it. What, Annelie? A cloth, yes. So let's see what happens now. Gonna do the same thing again. Gonna shoot it. Now look at the difference. Wow. This is so different from a white backdrop. As you can see now also, we can play with the shadows. So with the darkness of the material. So when I go here, and I go a little bit more from the side, the cool thing is I don't have to think about shadows anymore. Because now it's all part of that backdrop. There we go. Now I should not remeter because the distance is the same. The only thing we changed is the material on the desk. Now I'm shooting it on f4, which gives me a shallow depth of field. If you want more detail, you can always shoot it, of course, on a different aperture. But for me, for now, just going to keep it this way. Make sure that everything is nice and flat. Maybe play with this. We can always extend this in Photoshop. And I love playing with perspectives and angles. Just create something unique and nice. If you want to overexpose slightly to get special effects, why not open it up to 2.8 and get some really funky, cool close-ups. This is more the creative stuff where people sometimes go like, oh, I really like this, Frank. Wow, this is awesome. I want those. And sometimes my client goes like, oh, those are out of focus. I don't like those at all. I want sharpness. And now I know the next time I'm shooting for that client, I'm probably going to shoot for f11, f16. And if you are lazy, which we all are, of course, just make sure that you put the guitar in the middle and not on the sides like I did now, because now I have to retouch more. And when I put them on the middle, or in the middle, I can probably just fit them in perfectly. I will have a slight edge light now on the side, which I portrait setting. Yeah, you can do that. And a week asked me if I can do a portrait setting, for example, like this. With product photography, I still love to do it in landscape mode, but product photography can also be done, of course. Everything can be done in portrait mode. Personally, I don't like that. For me, it's more, this is much more engaging for me because there's more space on the sides. Okay, I'm done with this. It doesn't really, I don't know, it's flat on the floor. It doesn't have any power. It's a guitar, it's nice. I like all the angles, but what if we want to do more? What if we want to do something with set building? That's the thing that we can do. Because luckily, I didn't only bring a guitar. I also brought something else. Ugh, this is very, very heavy because I believe in tubes. This is a so-called Excalibur. The reason I'm choosing this one is not because it's an Excalibur, but it's because it looks vintage and it isn't immediately recognizable. Now, for you guys that love to know it, this is a Fender amp, full tubes, and it's in their pawn shop series. So they have several amps that they built, like how would an amp look if it was built in a different time period, but it's in a pawn shop. And the Excalibur was one that I really liked, also for photography, because you can't really see it's a Fender, but you can see it's a vintage amp. So it can be anything. It can be something cheap, it can be something expensive. And it also means when I use it with a guitar, there's not a real link to Marshall, Fender, Mesa Boogie. It's not something that immediately, oh, it's a metal, or it's rock, or it's progressive. No, it's really more anonymous. Let me turn it a little bit, because I want to make sure it captures the light. There we go. And now the thing is, I want to make sure that I get nice angles. So I'm going to pick up the guitar, and I'm just going to angle it against the amp. There we go, looks nice. Wow, should I remeter? Yes, and why? Very simple. Before, we only changed the material that was on the floor. In this case, I'm not changing the material that's on the floor. I'm actually lifting my guitar up towards the light. The amp is much higher than the floor. And now the guitar has to be lit completely. So I have to make sure that my light is set up correctly. So let's remeter. It was F4. Now we have 5.64, 5.61, and 4.08. So everything here is 5.6 around, only there it's a little bit more. Okay, doesn't matter. Let me just shoot it. So 5.64. So let me just guess. I'm just going to do 5.6. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit lower. And oh my, look at the reflection in the guitar. This is going to be terrible. And also, it just doesn't look right, right? This is a mess. How is it possible? We had it perfectly when it was on the floor. This should be easier, right? Okay, let's try something else. Angle of incidence is angle of reflection. Let's give Anna Week her image. Ah, there we go. Oh no! Look at the neck of the guitar. It's totally blown out, or it's totally reflecting. Yeah, that's terrible. But it isn't, because this also gives me a reason to use something else. Now, when you look at the lantern, when you look at the light source, you can literally see what it's going to do. How is it designed? This is designed to spread the light everywhere. But it also means that I can't focus my light, because if I want to create something that has oomph and bite and contrast, I don't need light spilling everywhere. For example, the backdrop. Do I want to see the backdrop? Maybe, maybe not. So let's change our light source. First things first, let's move this one down. There we go. And turn it off, yes, Annemiek, of course. So let's turn it off. Okay, so this one is gonna be removed. don't need this one anymore. And let's change over to the Frank Doorhoff Flash Bender. Now, the Flash Bender is designed to focus light. You can use the Flash Bender in many different ways. This is my favorite position. This is the strip light with grid. You can also use it as a softbox or as a bounce card or even as a snoot. Today, what Annemiek? No, the straps are tight. Okay, so this is also channel A. Now I have to determine from which side am I going to shoot. So let's start with very bright, right from the start. Why not? Straight from the front, bright light on the guitar. Let's aim it slightly up and angle it down. Very nice. Just to give you an idea what I'm normally seeing, I will turn off the studio light for a second. If I can find. So this is what we normally see. And this is more than enough to focus and set up your lighting. But for the video, this is way too dark. So I'm just going to figure it out as we go. So I want to make sure that I don't have my angle of incidence and angle of reflection. So from which side am I going to shoot? The first thing I want to do is I want to shoot it like this. I think this is going to be nice. And this is the second part that you have to be careful for. Now this amp isn't that heavy. But if you have something that's really heavy and you have to move your set around, I'm now running into problems. Because if I shoot it from this side, I have no problems. But if I shoot it from this side, it runs out of my room over there. So we don't want that. So when you build a set, make sure that before you shoot it, you know exactly from which angle you're going to shoot. In this case, very simple. Pick up the amp, move it here. Pick up the guitar. And you're done. But if it's like a truck and you have to move something or a bike, it's going to be a terrible decision. Make sure that it's nice and steady. There we go. I hope this holds. Okay. Let's meter it with the Flash Bender. I'm going to aim it slightly up. I can now see the reflections and now the reflection is gone. So that's perfect. So let's meter. Let me see, why doesn't it fire? Channel A, power on. Oh, no batteries. No batteries. So let's switch it over for the other one, Annemiek. So guys, sorry, that's the disadvantage of shooting live. Thank you. And again, normally we control them with the commander, but with the dumb triggers, it's just easier to do the light metering. Let's turn that one on. There we go. 5.66. So that's a little bit on the high end. So let's turn it down 2 clicks on the remote. So we're going to go on the remote. Let's go down 2 clicks. 1 and 2. Let's meter again. 16.7. 4.07. Okay, 1 click up. There we go, that's 5.6. So, first shot. This is the Flash Bender, and we are going to see a little bit of a reflection now probably. We're going to work that out later. There we go. As you can see on the sides, we have some reflection there. Annemiek, can you please turn that off? Okay. So we have some reflection on the neck. That's no problem because now we're going to choose the right angle. And just watch the reflection from the studio lighting. I have a lot here, but as soon as I shoot it with Flash Bender, it's okay. What you can also see now is that although we have a lot of junk over there, Annemiek, watch out. Although we have a lot of junk over there, you don't see it anymore. For the very simple reason, that part doesn't capture any light because I'm using a grid. So we have a perfectly dark backdrop. And the only problem is we have a perfectly dark backdrop, so I don't see anything. And that's why we have two other strokes there. We have one on that side and one on that side. So let's turn those on. And let's start with the one on that side. And this is one with a gel. So just a color gel from Rogue. And this one we're going to aim straight at the guitar. Again, normally we use modeling lights, so I have to guess it a little bit. But we call that the Dexter method, where we just look at lines. And at one point we will figure out what works. Okay. Now the backside I don't meter for the very simple reason that's a little bit like cooking. What do I like? Oh, I really like this already. Look at this. It really gives you that shine on the guitar. It gives you that nice feel of a live show. But in all honesty, I think it's a little bit dark. Annemiek, can you please turn that off? Annemiek, just turn it off. There we go. So let's just open that up a little bit. And you know, counter or with the clock, so that's B. So let's go on. And let's get some lens flares in there. There we go, that's even nicer. Yeah, that's nice, I like it, but maybe we should also put something on the other side. Now on the other side I have blue. So let's take some blue, but for that one I want to give a kiss of light on the front. And maybe some lens flares. So I'm going to aim this towards the floor. So that one is aimed from the back, this one is a little bit more on the front. Turn that one on. And the C, let's turn that also to 1/4. So let's give it a nice power. We always need more power, of course. There we go. Did it fire? Yes, but not enough. So let's aim that down. That's why I'm using grids. The grid really narrows the beam. I just want it hitting here. So I'm drawing my line. It should now hit. There we go, just on the edge and on the edge of the guitar. Let's give it a little bit more. One stop more. And then we're going to fine tune it because this, of course, is too much on the guitar, I think. Or maybe too little. If we turn the guitar just slightly, like this, and we're going to move this one slightly forward, we might actually get a nice rim light. There we go, look at that. Just on the bottom edge. Nice. Okay, now let's say that you also want some blue in your face, where you go like, oh, but I like this, but I also want to see it. Okay, that's why we're using boom arms. Now I can extend the boom arm behind my guitars and the amp and aim it slightly down. So it should be out of the frame. And now when I aim it towards the camera, I just hope that I just have enough light to just go over the fingerboard or fretboard, depending on where you live. There we go, just a nice edge light of blue. Just gives you that nice sparkle in your image where it's just not all red or all normal lighting, it's just that little bit. But in all honesty, I don't know, it doesn't really excite me yet. I like it a lot, but I think we're missing something. Now, what is the one thing that you always love about rock concerts, right? Smoke. Smoke and light, right? So I think it's time for us to also do something with that. And the reason is very simple. I love my lighting setup at the moment. It looks really nice. But can you see that the bottom part is a little bit dark? Now, when we start using smoke, that also means that smoke is acting as a diffuser, but also as a reflector. So that means that all the light I'm going to hit the smoke with is going to reflect back on my guitar when it's lit from the back, when it's lit from the front. So in other words, if we have some smoke in the front and in the back, we're going to fill it all nicely up. So I'm going to ask Annemiek and Nina to help me out for this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a larger smoke machine just to fill up the back. Nothing more, just to fill up the back. And then we're just going to see what happens. Yes? Oh, Annemiek is doing it. Okay, great. Just fill up the back a little bit, not too much. Yep, perfect. Yeah, a little bit more. Nice. As you can see here in the back, you don't see a lot, but you start to see that blue now getting much more attention. You could go a little bit lower and get that blue into. There we go. Look at this. The only problem you now have is that reflection from the flash bender, of course. But that's easily solved. Angle of reflection is angle of incidence, or angle of incidence is angle of reflection. Just move it. Smoke. And there we go. You see now it's moving down on the fretboard. And the more I move it around, the more it will change. But we are adding smoke and we are getting some nice images, but it's still in the back, you know, it's not in the front. So we have also different kinds of smoke machines. And this is the one that Nina has in her hand. And I just want some smoke on the floor. There we go. Like the guitar is smoking. As you can see now, smoke is totally unpredictable. Because now I have this huge bulb in the top with that blue. Look at that, it's terrible. So how can we solve this? The first thing we have to realize is, do we want to solve it? Yes, because that is way too much. So I'm going to set it up for a nicer lighting. So Anouk, you can go back to the cameras. Or actually Nina can go back to the cameras, and both of you. We're just going to set it up. So now my lighting is on top of a boom stand. Let's say that we want closer lighting. I can get closer with a boom stand, but I can never really get so close as I want. And the height of the boom stand is also too high for this setup. So I'm actually going to use something called a platypod. If I can find it. Oh, there we go. And a lot of people ask you like, hey, what can you use the platypod for? Because they are not very cheap. But this is amazing because now you can just take off your strobe from the stand. And place it very close to your product. And now we can really let the light fall off fast. And I mean really fast. The only thing is we have to raise the strobe up just a little bit. So that's why we're going to use a box. Of course, IQ wire box. Why not? Just, oh. Let's make sure that I tighten it. There we go. And I think I want to shoot it from this angle. I don't want too much light hitting the amp. I want it slightly here. I think for now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change my angle slightly. So maybe shoot it from that angle. Do I have enough room? Yes, but we are going to move the amp slightly that way to create a little bit more breathing room. There we go. Okay, so now the light is going to hit the side. Let's aim it up slightly. There we go. I do have to remeter, of course, because I changed the angle of light and also the distance. And let's feather it. So I don't want it to hit the amp, I just want to hit it full blast on the guitar. 8.05. Okay, that's way too much. Let's go down. 4.04, so let's try to get it on f5.6. Perfect, 5.6. Great. Okay, so it's pretty close. The backlighting, let's turn those off first, so you guys can see the difference. And now you can see that we have a really dark image. Oh, I'm still shooting on... oh no, sorry, I'm shooting right. So this is a really dark image. You don't see a lot of image on the guitar, it's just on the side of the amp. So, pick up your light. Keep the distance approximately the same. And now you can literally start adding your lights. Again, if it's dark in the studio, that helps a lot. Because then you can literally see what you're doing. In this case, I have to figure it out while I'm going. No, it's okay. There we go. This is really nice. Let's open it up slightly because I want some more light there. Nice. Is it too much on the amp? Maybe a little bit. So let's feather it away from the amp. Yes, that's nice. Okay, now let's turn on the blue one first because that's the troublemaker. So let's go for manual and let's go for, in this case, 1/8. You see this is also too bright, but you immediately see that it starts to interact with the whole scene. And this is something that you have to be really careful for because I don't want it in the frame like that. This is way too aggressive. So we're going to place this one higher. So I'm going to take out the blue spot, but I want to make sure that I still get that nice blue atmosphere in. That's nice. So now it's on the top and it doesn't blow out the head of the guitar anymore. Let's add red. Mode manual. 1/8. And there you go. And I think red in this case can be much more aggressive because red isn't in the line of view, of line of sight. There we go. This is nice. I think I need a little bit more light on this part. So we're going to see if we can manage that with the red one. Just aiming it slightly down, follow the line. There we go. It's a pretty close lighting setup. Nice. Just wraps around a little bit more. Okay, now we're gonna go. Annemiek, can you use the smoke in the back, please? Because then Nina can keep the camera rolling. Now that I know what I want to do, let's take a shot for the lighting setup. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go for a slightly lower angle. Let's see if I don't have any nasty reflections. Yes, I do. So take them out. There we go. This is great. You see that the lower angle immediately takes a totally different image, like the hero pose. Okay, Annemiek, a lot of smoke behind. Yep, and stop. Nice. So as you can see, the smoke in the back just is a little bit of a haze. So that's nice. I really like that. Now for the front, can I have the smoke machine? Let me see if I can do it alone. Because these are supposed to be the dry ice setting. De dry ice moet ik hebben. There we go. So we call this dry ice because it has the feeling of smoke just sticking to the floor. Now you have to be careful because we are shooting from the side. So it can create a lot of light spillage on the smoke. As you can see here, this is just way too much. So you just blow. There we go. I want the head to disappear into the smoke in the top. There we go. And as you can see now, I can't do this alone because it goes too fast. So what we have to do is we go to dry ice and we just blow in the back, not in the front. Yes, and now quickly go here and use the dry ice and immediately take it out. Yep, and go. Yeah, it's already going up. We have too much fans running at the moment. Normally the dry ice will stay very nicely, but we have a lot of drag in the studio at the moment. As you can see here, the smoke immediately goes to the back. So this is the part of the live stream where it doesn't really go the way that I want it. But the back looks really nice. Let's blow it out a little bit more. There we go. You can also go for a slightly higher position or shoot it, as Enrique always likes, in portrait mode. But I think the lower angle where you can just see the lights creeping through and just blowing out the top, I think that's really nice. Okay, do it very quickly and then move away immediately. There we go, that's nicer. Okay, and now do the same smoke here. And go. There we go, this is much, much better. Okay, start from there and then do the turn. And go. Nice. Smoke is very unpredictable, as you can see here, but if you are lucky, you're getting some great shots. And you can always go into Photoshop and combine, for example, 2 or 3 shots. But now that we shot this one, I got some cool images. I really like this. There's only one thing that, of course, also sometimes happens. Sometimes you have to shoot more products. In this case, we also brought something else. You might already guess it. I'm a huge Steve Vai fan, although that one doesn't give it away. So for now, we're going to use a really nice pedal. I'm going to pick it up myself. And we're not going to do a product shot of this one, but we're going to do that shot where you go like, ooh, I really want this. So let's just place this here. Really nice machine. Place the platypod here and just let the light fall over it. Now, I would prefer to be able to angle the light a little bit more. So if this is not going to work out, we're going to use a boom arm. But let's just try it for now. Yeah, but the pistol grip, I can try that just a little bit to try this and then angle it. Yeah, we can do that with the flash bender. That's no problem. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Okay. I didn't meter the light at the moment, but I just want to see how my composition works. Cool. So I need to lower the light on A. But as you can see, now what I'm trying to do is just create a nice distance between my guitar and the amp. And of course this one. Let's move this all the way to the front. Let's move this one slightly further away. And I want to make sure that also my amp and the guitar gets a little bit of light. So I'm going to angle the flash bender to feather. Now in this case, I don't need the whole guitar in. This is the device I want to shoot. So let's start out with everything at 12 o'clock. I'm going to hate myself tomorrow for this, because I finally got my perfect sound. Oh my. Now let's just change it again. So I don't like it the way that it's set up now. Yeah, that's nicer. Okay, meter the light. Let's grab the light meter. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out and ask them. 5.67. So to get to 5.6, I'm going to go down 2 clicks. So 1, 2. Let's do a test shot. There we go. So now you can see that the blue and the reds are already coming in. So we have a nice red side, we have a nice blue side, with a little bit of a lens flare on top, which I absolutely love, because that's why I have the filter on my camera. I still think we need some light more on the backdrop, and as you can see there on the guitar, there's a little bit of a reflection, which I don't want. So we can do 2 things. I'm going to make it easier on myself, so I'm going to move the pedal, and I'm actually going to make sure that I'm slightly changing the angle of the guitar, and make sure that it doesn't fall over. And I think this should do it. There we go. So now we have the guitar in the back, we have the amp, and we have the pedal. It's only about the pedal, so I'm going to close in on the pedal. And again, this is not a product shot, because with a product shot I have to make sure that the color is correct. This is more like a feel shot, like, hey, wow, this is great, I want it. And in this case, this is more towards a product shot, so I wouldn't use that one. But when I'm shooting from a lower angle with the amp in the back, I really like this. The only problem is I can't see what's going on. And if I shoot it like this, I can, but yeah, that's ugly. So it would be great if we can lift it up. So let's see what we can do. First of all, I'm going to lower the output of my red and blue slightly. I'm going to take a full stop off both, because I think they interact a little bit too much with the strobe. So let's first try this. Okay, still too much red. So let's turn red down even more. And again, this is like cooking. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. There we go. This I really like. I think we need some opening up on the buttons. So let's go for one stop more on our main light. This looks very good. Okay, now the only problem I have, it's too angled. So I like this, but I don't like that in the picture. I do love this, but I don't like it in the picture. So in both instances, I have a problem. So we need to make sure that we can lift it up. And this is something where you can just very simply use, for example, like zakdoekjes, Annemiek.
Ja, die lagen ook op de stoel.
Okay. Handkerchiefs, for example. So you have to make sure that it doesn't show up in the picture, of course. So we use something small and we place it as far in the front as possible. And if this doesn't lift it up enough, it doesn't. Let's take some more stuff. So let's use a drying cloth, or how do you call it? Theedoek. There we go. That's nice. That looks a lot better. Why fake it when you can create it, right? And now look at the difference. Now I can shoot from a much lower angle. I get much more of that vibe in, the vibe. And now I can go slightly higher with my camera and still get the shot that I want. This is really nice. Now, the guitar in the back, of course, it doesn't really do anything at the moment. So we want to make sure that we are incorporating that guitar. But I don't want that red over there anymore. So what you can do is, because we're using boom arm, is extend the boom arm and try to aim it not towards the device, but actually, believe it or not, towards the camera. So I'm trying to not hit the device itself, but I'm trying to just get the light over it and just hope that I get enough of that light into my... Yes, there we go. This is nice, so I don't hit it. So let's go. The first thing I'm going to do is full blast, because I want to see where it goes, what it does. So this is way too much. Although, is it? I think it isn't. It's actually pretty nice. Yep. I don't like the whole vlakverdeling composition. So what we're going to do is I'm going to aim the amp more this way. And as you can see, we're still changing the set, because this is a different setup. Make sure that I don't have any nasty reflections on the guitar by angling it. There we go. It falls out of the frame, but it doesn't really matter, because it's all about the... There we go. Look at the difference. Now I give it much more breathing room. I love the lens flare on the top, and now I can fill in that gap over there that I absolutely hate with blue. So if you're feeling blue, come to a workshop. This weekend we have spectacular model photography with Nadine. Look at that. Wow. This I really like. Now, of course, now when I want to show more of the product, see, now I have no problems anymore. Because it's lifted up, I don't need to tilt my camera all the way up. And again, it's not a product shot like this, because, well, that's nice, but it doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't engage with me. And when I shoot it from this angle, I can still see everything. although I can't see what's on the buttons. But do you really need it if you also have a product shot? No. Maybe work a little bit with depth of field. Maybe use a little bit of a wide angle for some nice distortion. Not overdrive distortion. Or maybe just zoom in and compress the whole set. It just depends on what your client wants and what you want. I like it, but I think it should be even more up. Let's see if we can manage that. There we go. And as mentioned before, don't be afraid to change in between your sets. You have to make sure that your client is happy with what you do. And in this case, you guys are the clients. So let me know in the comments what you think. You see the reflection there? That drives me nuts. So I'm going to see if I can angle the guitar just a little bit more. Now I have the same reflection, but it's just out of the frame, if I'm correct. Yes. Perfect. And now everything falls together. But make sure you choose your composition wisely, because now we're going to have the reflection on the top from the blue. I think this is my favorite position. And maybe they make it a little bit straighter. Yes, there we go. Okay, anyway, can you put some smoke in the back? So now that I made my composition, as you can see here, I really like this. Now we're going to do the smoke in the back. Yeah, that's enough, Annemiek. There we go. And a little bit of smoke on the front, only on the machine. No, not with that one. With the dry ice. You have to hurry.
Waar? Hier?
In the front. Yes, there we go. And away. Nice. As you can see, because we're using a lot of lighting from the back, the smoke can be a little bit aggressive. But as mentioned before, just shoot a few images and just combine them later in Photoshop. A little bit more there, Annemiek. And then just pull it all the way through and immediately out of the frame. Yeah, and a go. Nice. There we go. Now we got a few that are really nice. To recycle the strokes. There we go. Nice. Love this. Cool. Okay, let's take a look at some of those images, and then my assistants are going to set up for the final set. And that one is going to be awesome. I can already tell you that. So let's turn this one off. And Annemiek, this one on the boom stand again. And then die. Okay, no. What we agreed upon. Okay, let me switch over to my commercial very quickly, because of course we have sponsors, so we have to show you a little bit of commercial, and in between we can set up. So we will be right back. Okay, guys, let me go for picture-in-picture large for very quickly. So I want to go through some images with you guys. So what can you do? Now, one of the things always people ask me, like, hey, how do you retouch something like this in a Lightroom or Photoshop? In essence, let's just go into Lightroom very quickly and let's just find one. So we're gonna go done. Let's just go all the way here, all the way to the back. Annemiek, that battery is empty. If you can look at it, because it doesn't have a charger. Okay, so something like this, what should you do? I think, in all honesty, my composition could be a little bit better. So I would crop it slightly, but let's first just see what we can do with light. I think bump up the contrast, just protect the highlights a little bit, give it some shadow area. What I absolutely love to do is give it a little bit of clarity and some texture, and of course a vignette, because the vignette always gives you a nice oomph in your image. Now, I'm not doing this on a calibrated monitor. Normally, of course, we use the BenQ monitors, but this is my iPad, and it's a live stream. Just maybe add some vibrance, and there you go. So overall, I think if you make a proper crop of this, I think you got a pretty decent shot. It's not 100% wow, but it is something that you could use, for example, as an overview. So let's say you open up the catalog, the carving catalog, and the first image you see, boom, is this image. And then underneath you can see the information of the carving, let's say you drive, and you can see the white images. For example, a small square where you can just click on it, opens up, and now you can see all the product details in white backdrop. This motivates me way more to buy a product than just a white backdrop or a black backdrop. But of course, you can do a lot more. Now, if you know me, you know that I love to push the limits of my gear, but also I like to take a risk. And the risk I'm going to take today, I think I'm going to regret maybe, or maybe not. You never know. I also have something else. Now, I already told you guys I'm a huge Steve Vai fan. I would love to photograph him once, but hey, who knows? And recently, or a few months ago actually, one of the brands that I really like, Positive Grid, released a Steve Vai Spark Mini. Now, what is the Spark Mini? The Spark Mini is a small amp that you can use to play, for example, in the garden or in your hotel. It's very small and it has some great sounds. You can use headphones. It has a drum machine on board, so it's a great machine. So I was thinking about, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to do the guitar, I'm going to do the amp, we're going to do the carving pedal, I also want to do the Positive Grid Spark Mini, but how? Now, the Spark Mini is really small, and I wanted to show you what you can do with mirrors. And mirrors gives you a lot of headaches, because with mirrors you have reflections, but you also have double reflections. Now, some mirrors don't have this, for example, plastic mirrors. We use those for fashion shoots, but this is a normal mirror. So let me show you on the camera what we're actually going to try to do. So here we have the Positive Grid unit, and it's on a mirror. So my challenge is actually to find out how I can shoot this on an interesting way. So let's let's try it. Annette, can you turn my camera on and off again? Or off and on? Oh, it doesn't have to. It works. Great. Okay. So this is going to be a challenge. Yeah, this is going to be really difficult. Because we have to do with reflections. We have to do with all this nice material. And I have to make sure that the amp looks nice. Now, if I'm going to shoot this, the first thing I have to make is my composition. So where I'm going to sit. I think I'm going to shoot from here. Now, when I see this already, I really like it. I like the gray on the side. I like this. I like that it has this reflection. I don't like the handle, because the handle on one side is leather. So, or we're going to do the handle up, or we're going to do the handle down. I think for a product shoot, we have to have the handle up, because we have to make sure that there's a handle there. But I don't want to show the leather on the side, so I'm going to make sure that it's nice and up. If I show the leather inside or whatever, that's just the way it is. In the end, there's always a shot where I don't. I think this is nice. I love the reflections. The side, maybe we can move this a little bit more here. I'm going to look at this. I like the positive grid in the reflection, so let's move that here. The buttons are okay. Shouldn't have the whole machine in there. This is nice. Yeah. Now for this one, I want harsh light quality. I prefer, I think, a spot like a Fresnel. But I don't have a Fresnel for this because my Fresnels are, of course, for model photography, so it's a little bit too large. But a great alternative is a snoot. So we're going to take the flash bender off. It did its work for today. And we're going to use the Rogue snoot. Now, you can buy many accessories. And some accessories you can just see are designed by photographers for photographers. Now, when you buy a product, what is the thing that you hate the most? You buy it, you use it once, you put it in the cupboard, and you don't use it again. Now, a lot of products are designed to be used in one specific way. For example, if you look at a reflector, you know exactly, you see the reflector, you know where it's used for, right? If you see a reflector in the form of the bounce reflectors, you immediately say, hey, there's a silver side, there's a soft side, you know what it's for. So when you see a snoot, you immediately know, okay, it's to aim the light. But this is how a lot of snoots are sold. And I think you really miss a point here. Because if I want to aim my light, how do I create my narrow beam of light or a narrower beam of a wider beam of light? Now look at this. You can just collapse it. So this is position 1. This gives me a relatively wide area on which I shoot. This is setting 1, 2, 3. And the nice thing about this is, so now I can just focus my light. If I need more spread, less, or I really want to focus in. I can also combine it with a gel or with a grid on the backside because it's of course a magnetic system. Now you might wonder like, hey Frank, can't you just move the light further away? Yes, you can. The only problem is when you move the light further away, you're also changing your light fall off, or in other words, your inverse square law. Light falls off over the distance. Now, this is a square, so it's not half, it's square. And the reason for this is incredibly important, because sometimes you want a narrow beam of light, but you want a lot of area hit. That's when you use a narrow beam of light and you move your lights away. Sometimes you want a narrow beam of light, but you don't want a lot of area lit. You only want a small area lit. That's when you are much wiser to go for position 2 and just move the light closer. You still have that same area that is lit with this, but you go closer. Yeah? Okay, so for now we're going to use it on the highest setting. I'm going to place it on my GT250 and I'm just going to aim it straight at my positive grid unit. Now, this is going to be a nightmare to set up, so to make it myself a little bit easier, I'm going to turn off the studio lighting just for a second, so I can see what I'm doing, because I don't want to take too much of your time. There we go. Now, as you can see, I have a very small light source on my device, and that's because I'm using the snoot without the small diffusion panel. Now, let me explain that very quickly. Annelie, can you give me the diffusion panel so I can show?
I don't know where it is, Frank.
Oh, really? That's terrible. You're fired. Let me just take a normal gel to explain. So, when you buy the snoot, you get a diffusion panel with your snoot. So what is a diffusion panel? Now, this is a grid. Oh, sorry, this is a gel. Now, with all the gels that we sell, the Rogue gels, the correction gels, and the creative gels. So correction gels are, for example, if you work under a tungsten light source, you have to lower the color temperature of your strobes. So you use something that's a little bit brownish or yellowish, and you lower your color temperature. Those are called correction gels. These are creative gels. Creative gels are much thicker because they give you more of that color, so more saturation, but they also take away some stops of light. Now, in the case of my Lost at Sea Blue, it takes 2 stops away. Now, you might wonder like, hey Frank, if it takes 2 stops away, is that nice or is that something that we don't want? Well, the more stops you take away, it also means the more saturated the color is. Now, in the case of the snoot, there's something else going on. Now, when I place the snoot on a rectangular strobe, it will not give me a round image. It will actually give me a rectangular image because it's a rectangular strobe. If I place it on my GT250, the flash tube is round. So that means it gives me one hot spot in the center and just a little bit of faded light on the sides. In this case, I really like it because I like the effect on the mirror. I like that this is a little bit darker and that really that center part is on my device, or in this case on the Spark Mini. If I don't want that, I can use something like this, but we call it a diffusion panel. And it's delivered in the box with the snoot. If you put this in front of the snoot, it will make a perfectly round circle of light. So, in other words, another nice thing about the snoot, you can use it in 3 different settings. You can use it with the diffusion panel or without. Use it on a GT250 and you get a really nice round light with all the weird stuff on the sides. Use it on a GT200 with a rectangular strobe and you get a nice rectangular light. In this case, we're using it on the 250. Yeah. And of course, Chewy is here and he's barking a little bit because he says, Frank, you're going on way too long. I want to go home. But he still has to wait a little bit. Okay. So let's just first meter the light from my main light source. The other ones are off. 1.44. And now you will immediately see the difference between a normal snoot and a normal light source. The snoot eats light, and that's normal, 1.44. So that's great. So let's turn that up. Oh, it's on 116, so we can go up all the way. I want a nice depth of field, so we're going to go full power on this one. 5.6, perfect. I have something with 5.6 today. So 5.6, let's just take the picture without thinking about the backstrobes. So I'm going to be sitting here in my cocon. This is something where Anouk brings me water and food when I'm doing this kind of photography because I don't want to leave. I'm just here in between the strobes. It's the perfect place to be, right? Okay, ISO 200. Let's zoom in on the Spark Mini and let's take the shot. And now you can already see that we have the lights in the back going off. Sorry for that. So let's turn that off. Let's turn that one off. Okay, there we go. So now we have just the snoot. I really like it. Look at that back. I really like the shininess of that material. The thing is, it's only on the back and I would love to have a little bit more on the sides. So that's when I'm going to take my snoot. I'm going to guesstimate it. That we now have slight light on the side. There we go. Let's angle the mirror. And let's hope that the light is still okay. Yeah, I like that. As you can see here now, we have a little bit of that leather. Maybe show a little bit more of that, and it doesn't show up as on the top. I don't like that light reflection. Yeah, we still have that light reflection. So let's see if we can just lower this. I think this is much nicer because now I can literally see that it has a handle. You can always make a few images with the handle, but I think in this case I don't like it. This is nice. The only thing is it doesn't excite me yet. I want that power that we had with the previous shot. I want that here too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use my strobes, but I'm not going to aim it at me or smoke. We're actually going to aim it at all the reflective material and just see what happens. Maybe it sparks, maybe it doesn't. I never done this before, and that's no joke. So I wish it was. So let's just move this one here. And now I'm just finding the reflections. I'm not want to take them out. I'm literally just looking for them. So I'm looking for trouble. I don't want it hitting my device, so I'm going to aim this one down. I'm just going to hit it from the back. And I just hope it just spreads out nicely. I'm going to do the same thing with the red one. The red one I'm going to aim at the mirror. Like, for example, this. And just kiss to the front. If I need more steering of light, I can always add more grids, because if you add more grids, you narrow the beam of light. And I think for the red one, I might use another grid in a week, so be prepared. How many grids do we have? Okay, then let's see if we can figure it out without. Okay, I'm going to go for 164, so I'm going to go for a really, really low setting on the strobes, because I first want to see what happens. This is also the moment where the client is probably in the restroom for a second, because I want to set this up and just want to show it when the client comes in, like, wow, this is great. Oh, I really like this. The red, however, is, I don't need an extra grid. I might actually take the grid off, because I want to light more of that area. And maybe we can even do some nice, because I have more than enough room. Let's see how this works. So I'm going to give a kiss of light around this area and just aim it towards me. And then maybe some smoke. Oh, this is nice. Yep, this is pretty cool. I don't like the reflection on the positive grid part, so I'm going to angle it slightly. Now, normally when we do product photos, I have to be honest, I'm using a tripod to make sure that I don't have any problems with changing reflections like this. Then if you shoot from a tripod, you can just very slightly change it and it's okay. In this case, we're not going to do it, but I'm actually going to angle it slightly here. Maybe we can get a nice line over the positive grid. As you can see here, I'm already seeing my strobe in the mirror. Now you might say this is something you don't want. In this case, I do want it, because I want that light to reflect up. So I now already know that this strobe should be a little bit more angled down, because I really want that light spot on in the mirror. And later in Photoshop, we can always try to do a little bit of a lens flare, for example, with Boris FX, or very simple, leave it that way and use smoke in a moment. I think that's better. So this is with the strobe in, and with the smoke, I think this can be really nice. If I don't want it in, and it's always up to the client, I will go a little bit lower and, for example, zoom in on the product a little bit more, or just shoot it from a slightly different angle and just include the strobe in a place where I can take it out. Or you could always do straight on front, which I absolutely don't like, because this is way too flat. The whole set just jumps not at me like it did with the other ones. So as soon as I start shooting from this side and you get the red and the blue in, this is where it starts to excite me. In all honesty, I think the reflection on the mirror doesn't work at the moment, but because we don't have any smoke yet. So anyway, could you give me some smoke, please? Now, please. So first some smoke in the back, just to create a haze.
Waar is die kleine nou dan?
Annemiek, big smoke machine.
Ik moet doorkijken.
Even eerst in the back. Yes, and then slightly towards the front. Stop. That's enough. Nice. Maybe slightly lower or maybe higher. I think the back side is nice. Now what you want, Annemiek, is get that smaller smoke machine, and we're going to try something on the back. So in the back, I like the smoke as a haze. In the front, start here and then pull it that way and immediately take it out of the frame when you're done. Okay, it doesn't need the red strobe. So we're going to take the red strobe off. Not off, but we're going to take that up so it doesn't reflect. So I'm going to do this. And it also means that I now have much more room to also light the nice silver material. So let's try that again without the smoke. And sometimes stuff works, you know, sometimes it doesn't. It's no problem. As soon as you send those images to the customer, that's when it has to fit. This is nice. I do think that the sides of the positive grid should be lit a little bit more with that blue. So let's go for the C channel. Let's give that 2 stops more. Might be a little bit overkill, but I think it's just enough. There you go, that really glows. Now the red is slightly too much forward, and this will also mean that I have a problem when we start using the smoke. So the red should be more here. Aim it towards the product. There we go. Nice, slightly higher angle. And now we will have the light reflecting in the front, so just crop that out. I also want to see the buttons, so I have to make sure that I don't see my red light anymore. Okay, I do see my red light. And there's not enough light on the top of my machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the red to light the top of the spark. And I'm going to take my grid off. So this means I now have a lot more light hitting the whole set. That also means that I have to be careful, of course, with the light output, because now it can be a little bit overwhelming. I didn't move that one, right? Are you sure? Let's turn off, just to be sure. Yeah, okay, that's still good.
You need smoke?
Not yet. Okay. Yeah, that's much nicer. Because now when I took the grid off, I lose that feeling of it has to point somewhere. Now it more spreads out, and now I get much nicer quality of light over my silver. I don't have that reflection in the mirror because I can place my light further away. I think we're going to do the same thing for the blue. And because I'm now moving, because I'm now moving my lights further away, it also means that when we start using the smoke again, we can have much nicer effects from the smoke in the back. And I'm also going to hit the side of my Spark Mini a little bit better. So that's the second grid off. And that's without the smoke. Look at that. Wow. Let's turn that one down. Because blue is a little bit too aggressive. This is nice. This is really nice. Okay, anyway, now I'm ready for the smoke. So I'm going to shoot from a slightly higher angle like this. This is going to be it.
First behind?
First behind. Yep, stop. On the floor. There we go. And go. Nice. And of course, we also want to make sure that one at least sees the bubbles. And now, because we have that strobe over here, Annemiek, I want a lot of that ice here. So start out around and then move it back over there. And go, go, go. Yeah, that's too late. Jammer. Because now I'm using the smoke to cover up the reflection of the strobe, as you can see here. And it gives you actually a very nice spotlight. Maybe a little bit too much, but you can always take that out in Photoshop or create a new lens flare with, for example, Boris. That's an app, by the way, plugin. Nice. Okay, a few more from a lower angle. I think we got it. Here goes the same thing. If you want to angle it slightly forward, Annemiek, can you do the handkerchiefs? On the other side a little bit more. There we go. I have to be honest, it looks a little bit weird. because it looks like it's almost on top. But if you go for a slightly higher position, as you can see here, and just fill that part up with smoke. So start here. Oh no, sorry, start there, and then pull it to the front and immediately gone. Okay, a little bit too much. Wait for it to clear up. Oh. In all honesty, I think we're gonna lose that. And maybe we can just push it a bit more like this. This is also really nice. Okay, Anouk, some smoke in the front, the dry ice, and then move it away immediately.
Nope.
Yeah, that's the part where it goes wrong. Nice. Okay, let's do some close-ups. I don't like these, but this is too boring, you know. I think when you do it from the sides, you create that really nice, maybe even get the two lights in. No, that's too much. I think in the end the close-ups are best just with a little bit of reflection. And of course now, because we used a lot of the smoke, Annelie, can I get the theedoek? We have some material on the mirror. Annelie, de theedoek onder dat ding van Carvin. So let's just...
Doesn't really help.
It helps a lot.
Oh, not from where I'm standing.
That's because the angle of incidence is the angle of reflection, and when you're standing, you don't see what I'm doing. There we go. Because I do want that reflection in, of course. That's a lot better. Okay, and a week, final one with the smoke. Because now I think I got it. Yeah, I think this is going to be... Oh, wait a minute. I don't like that shadow. One moment. What's that shadow coming from? It is the blue. Can you raise the blue up? Omhoog. Up. Annewiek, up. Turn it down. And then up. Aim it slightly towards me. Yep, and stop. Okay, there was this nasty shadow area, and I think it's actually from the red one. Yep. So let's move the angle. There we go. Now it's gone. This is much better. Okay, Anouk, final one. Niet doen, niet doen. We need the reflection in, and if you make it too much, the reflection is gone. Okay, there we go. This is what I like. Okay, this is perfect, Anouk, and now just a little bit. Don't, because then we're done. There we go. Nice. And now it's just a matter of shooting a few images and making sure that you got what you need. Maybe even do some hero shots from a very low angle. Yeah, in this case it doesn't make any sense.
So you never come so close to your model, right?
No, normally no. Okay, great. We got it. Okay, this is nice. Okay, let's do our final review. Yep. So I need the color checker for now. So this is the most important shot. We want to make sure that all the colors are right. So we're going to use the Calibrite color checker. And you place it as flat as possible. Turn off all the lighting that has color. For the very simple reason you absolutely don't want those in because they influence your color temperature. And what I highly recommend, and normally you remeter of course, is shoot it as flat as possible. So in other words, like this. And now you can very easily set up your color balance and everything will work fine. Okay, cool. Let's go behind the desk. You can turn off all the strokes, Annemiek, if you want. Also, if you don't want. Okay, let's go for picture-in-picture large. Okay, so Eric, you asked me, do you have a boom mic? It may help when you turn. So no, I use this one. I don't have any need for a boom mic in the studio for the very simple reason when I do the model photography, I walk around way too much to have, and we only work with 3 people here. So we have one behind my camera, the main camera, we have Anouk behind the desk, and I'm doing everything else. So boom mic would be terrible in this case. And also because it also picks up the sounds of the dog, it picks up the sounds from everybody walking, so that's why we're using closed mics. I do understand what you mean when I move my head around, it sounds maybe a little bit softer, and that's something that, no, that's what you have with lavaliers. Next time I will try to get them a little bit higher, and somebody gave me the tip to put them on my cap, because that gave you, let me try that. Chewy, please. Because they said if you put it on your cap, you get a really nice, even sound quality. I have no idea if that's true, but you know, we can always try. Okay, so when we go through the images, yeah, this is Chewy, our Labradoodle. Chewy, look at the camera. Hi. Oh yeah, now he looks away, like he doesn't want to be in the picture. So, okay, so when we go through the images, you can literally see that at the end, I really started to get what I wanted. And what I want is something that that really gives you that sense of colors, of life, of something exciting. You don't just want a product that's there with a nasty white backdrop or black. You just want something that captures your imagination. What I'm going to do is I'm going to retouch these images. We're going to upload them in the coming days. And of course, you can always watch the rerun of Digital Classroom. And then I'm going to write a blog post where you can see the final images and, of course, the whole live episode. So you can see what we did after retouching. And you will see that most of the images are almost straight out of the camera. I don't do a lot of retouching with product shots. Maybe combine some images where the smoke is perfect. But that's about it. And especially when you shoot on a tripod, it makes it so much easier. Okay, better on the cap. Okay. No, we're going to keep it on the cap. It looks ridiculous, but hey, we can always try that, right? Okay, Anouk, do we have anything more that we want to say to people? Yes, we have a really nice discount. So soon we have the photo fair in the Netherlands. It's a really cool show with a lot of tents and workshops. They have a steampunk, they have agility with dogs, they have a lot of cosplayers running around. It's absolutely great. And we now have a 25% discount if you use the code PhotoUni 2025 Holland. And is that for the tickets, Anouk, or for our products?
That's for the tickets.
That's for the tickets?
That's to get in. It's not
That's
for
to
the
get in.
workshops.
Okay, for the workshops, you need to book differently, of course. But this is for the tickets. And I can already tell you, we have some really nice discounts during the photo fair. So make sure that you also visit our tent and say hi if you're there. Now, the workshops. A lot of people ask me about, hey, Frank, the workshops are always in Dutch. Do you also teach them in English? Yes. If you let us know a few weeks in advance, we can literally just switch the workshops over to English because most people in the Netherlands also speak English. Now, if you are living far away and you think like, hey, I'm afraid of Chewy, the dog, I don't want to travel to the Netherlands, we also have workshops one-on-one in the studio. It's very similar to the digital classroom. The only thing is digital classroom, we leave the camera static. With the one-on-one workshops, we move around the cameras. Now, during digital classroom, that's a little bit too much because it's only a 2-hour live stream. But when you do a one-on-one in our studio, it's literally, it starts at 10 and it ends at 4. So that's a 6-hour workshop. And at that point, we just move the cameras around to show you the settings on my camera, to show you everything, how it's connected to the strobes. It's very interactive. So make sure that you, if you are interested, you book a one-on-one workshop or maybe with your club or whatever. Just email us for more information. I think that's it in a week. And we have a new digital classroom, by the way, in about 2 weeks. So that's already very, very fast. I believe May 28th. And that's about small spaces. I think one of the most asked questions is, okay, Frank, I don't have a large studio. You have this huge studio. How do you work in small spaces? What a lot of people don't realize is that my studio consists of a lot of small spaces because we don't work in a big space. We have a big space because then we can fit in a lot of small spaces. So we're going to do some photo shoots over there with our little podium.
There, well, there
Yeah,
it is.
this was actually a church, believe it or not, a few decades ago, and we bought it. And of course, we kept some stuff intact and some stuff we changed, of course, for the studio. And the podium we left intact, so we have this little nice staircase, and it's great to shoot models there. But it also gives you an opportunity if you are ever in a small location. I give you a lot of tips about lighting setups that always works, how you can create more mood in a set, and where do you place your strobes, and of course, how do you build it that your model can pose with a set. So that's going to be on May 28th on a week,
Yeah.
in 2 weeks. Okay, if you don't have any questions anymore, I'm gonna sign off for today. I'm gonna keep my sound on my cap because that sounds best, I guess. And I'm gonna see you next time. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions you want to see in the next episode of Digital Classroom, just let me know, and maybe you see your question answered in the next episode.